Hey folks, Matt Sharp here with another Pacific Angler Friday Fishing Report. We're filming for almost August, so if it's nowhere near almost August, click up here. This is a link to all the Friday Fishing Reports. We do it most weeks, so we should have something more up to date for you. This week is a big week because I can finally say yes, the pinks have arrived. It is a standing joke at the shop that we get asked on almost every month of the year, including years that don't have pinks, have the pinks arrived yet? They now have, but there's some caveats in there, and we're going to go over it as expected. The numbers are not what we expected, but there's some cool opportunities out there. I'm going to share with you guys where we've been hearing the reports from saltwater all the way up to freshwater and what we expect going forward, as well as I'm going to share some simple rigs that you guys can look at when you're going out targeting them. Now, the other one we wanted to talk about is the weather, because we do have a heat wave coming. Now, I predicted the last heat wave not to be as bad as expected, and I was totally wrong on that. But this time I'm also saying that when we look at the weather, it doesn't look that bad. And so it will be warm, but there's some cool fishing opportunities in there for both the beach anglers as well the river anglers. Now, out to all you river anglers, I shouted out 2 weeks ago to send me river temperatures, and you guys responded. I had dozens of guys send in specific river temperature gauges off of our local trout streams like the Thompson, like the Skagit, those areas. Why? Because we have to be concerned about that with a fairly warm summer that we're seeing. Already in the Okanagan, we've seen some closures in limited areas because the water's been too hot. I'm going to share with you what is too hot, what is perfect, which you're actually sitting at right now. I'm going to share those reports with you and what we want to look for going forward, where we might consider good fishing, or we might consider saying, hey, I'm going to hang up my rod for a couple weeks until things cool down. Also, I got some cool videos for you this week. Andre's got that fly that he talked about 2 weeks ago. If you guys remember, he had a fly that was lighting it up for coho off the beach, and he's done a tutorial on it. It's definitely one worth putting in your box, and I totally think it can double duty for pinks as well, which should be coming. I've got mixed reports on that front. And then also I've got a really fun one for you saltwater guys. Brendan Morrison and Jason went out last year and filmed a really cool episode. They're releasing it now, and it's on a very specific cool area that just happens to be an area that the Honorable Bernadette Jordan has opened up for us for limited retention options, but it's a really technical deep fishery. Now, this video is really cool because they light up the fish. If you just want to sit back and watch that, it's well recommended. But flip it around, there's actually some tidbits of very good fishing information hidden within it, so you saltwater guys might want to geek out on it. Last but not least, if you guys follow my Instagram, you shouldn't, because I just post kid pictures and beer drinking pictures and the occasional fishing picture. I was up fishing up in the Okanagan this last week, and I did some carp fishing. I've been talking about it for a couple months now because it's actually one of my favorite fisheries. I feel kind of dirty saying that, but I love carp fishing, and it's a cool fishery because you can do it with your kids. You can do it on a more technical level if you really want to get into the rigs, and then you can take it to the extreme and you can put a fly rod in your hand and try to target them on the fly, which is what we did. And I'm going to walk you guys through the basic strategies and ideas how you can tackle all of them, literally from the Barbie doll special rod all the way up to the NRX fly rod. As always, guys, you want to see more reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into her. All right, guys, cheers to Friday. I'm drinking wine right now because we were just up in Okanagan country. It was excellent. I'm going to talk about the carp fishing we did up there in a bit. Yeah, cheers to Friday. So what have I got for you this week? Well, let's start off with the weather, because that's going to hinge a whole bunch of our fisheries. And when we look at the Vancouver weather first, there is a heat wave coming, but it's not that bad. Now, I said that last time and we got utterly smoked, so trust the weatherman, not me. That said, it's going to be hot. It's going to be 30 when you guys are watching this on Friday, which would be nice, but maybe not so nice for water temperatures. Flip it around though, and it does get cool on Sunday, and we're going to get some overcast, and that actually could be really good for a number of our beach fisheries as well as our river fisheries. So let's look at the Chilliwack weather, because they're going to get hit a little harder as usual. warmth is going to push up that way, and it's going to be like 35 degrees when you guys are watching this. But again, it's going to cool off. We might even see like 5 mils of rain on Sunday, and that's not bad. That is a good thing. That's going to put some cool water into the rivers, and we need that right now. Flip it around and we look at the central Okanagan region, and this is where there have been some concerns. There are some closures right now up there for rivers. I'm going to put it up here, and we're going to look at the listed areas. You can see that right here, that you're actually not allowed to river fish, and that's because water temperatures have gotten too hot. We're going to talk about that in detail because last week I asked you guys to send in reports on water temperatures on our local rivers, aka the Thompson and the Skagit, and you guys did that in droves. So it was really cool, and I want to correlate that, and I want those to keep coming. So if you guys go out, take a temperature gauge. I want you to walk a little bit into the river, not in the stagnant water or the dead water, but where there's a little bit of moving water, maybe 1.5 feet in. Put your hand down if you got that temperature gauge and give me a reading. The readings we were getting were in this sort of 55 range, and that's actually really good. That's ideal trout temperatures, but we have to keep an eye on them this year because things have been warm, and we do expect them to get high. And so like by mid-August, maybe even late August, if we get another really crazy hot spell, we are going to have the debate with ourselves of whether we should continue fishing. And what are the temperatures we don't want to see? Well, guys look at 70 as a bad temperature, something that's going to really hurt fish. I downgrade that. I start worrying at about 65-degree water temperatures, and we don't see those very often. We have in the past, and they have closed rivers, and they are doing that in the interior for that exact reason. But right now we're at about 55 from all the reports I've heard, 54s, 56s, 55s right across the board, and that is literally the perfect temperature to go trout fishing. Now with those reports, we had good fishing reports because obviously those temperatures are great. So we've heard good nymphing. Josh and Gavin were up, they're guys at the shop. They had some decent fishing, as well as we heard a number of guys finding good dry fly hatches as well as good nymphing opportunities on our local flows. So let's get out and go now, but keep your eye on the water temperatures and keep sending those water temperatures, and I'll put the email, my personal email that I want you to send those to right here. Please, let's build this community so if we get to a situation where it's too hot, we know when to stop. Now, let's take a peek at the tides and talk a little bit about pink fishing. So where have we got that here? Okay, here we are. So tides look great, and always what we're looking for is a low tide early in the morning, and that's coming. So if you guys look at the tides this week, come Friday when you guys are watching this, it's a 5:48 early low tide, which might be a little bit too early, but I kind of like that. Roll it into Saturday, we've got 6:37. Roll it into Sunday, we've got 7:27, and then right into early next week. They aren't the biggest low tides, but they're definitely going to be enough that you can get out a long way and target where the fish are moving, those deep trenches that are usually a little bit off the beaches that you can't reach in a high tide as easily. Now the reports have been mixed. We're still hearing good reports off Bowen if you can find fish, if you're a trolling guy who wants to target pinks. The guys have been running pink hoochies, little small sort of squirt style patterns. We've got a bunch at the shop. Come on down. We'll talk you through what you need if you want to target these fish. And you're looking at your sounders, you're looking for big schools of fish on your sounder and then trolling relatively slowly through them, and it can be very, very effective. Now, the beach guys have had mixed reviews. I've had a few guys out, hook a few fish. We haven't seen anything great yet, and that's kind of expected. Now, the Squamish way doesn't have very good numbers when they know their assessments. They kind of wait for the fish to come and see what's coming and then make assessments off of that. I would love it if they did better assessments there, but that said, right now we are expecting right across the board to be a very low pink year. When we look at the Fraser, the test fisheries are showing us that. They also are showing a very low sockeye year, though the Chinook numbers are looking pretty good, which leads us to the Vedder. And so the Vedder has been having decent Chinook fishing. That said, in the last handful of days, I've heard it's been a little bit more challenging. The fish have come in and we're waiting for fresh waves, and the fish that are in the system are now getting a little bit pickier. Guys, they're still finding them. There's a good number of fish in there and it's well worth going. But it's usually sort of a mid-morning bite, at least from the reports we've been getting. And the crowds have been an issue. Obviously, a lot of the fish are stuck lower down, and that has slowed things down on the catching ratios. So worth going, but be careful. I wouldn't go on the long weekend coming up. I wouldn't go maybe weekend if you can avoid it. Try to go midweek, and it's definitely worth looking at. Now let's talk about the fly that I have from Andre for you guys. Now, 2 weeks ago we talked about this fly and it was kind of fun. Let me just pull it up here. Oh, there's the sound. Bear with me, we'll go right to the end of this video so you guys can see it here. I'll put it up here so you guys can see it in more detail. This was a cool one that he's hooked a bunch of coho on over the last 2-3 weeks. So he did a tutorial this week on it. So if you guys are looking for stuff for your box, this one should definitely be in it. It's sort of a double duty. It can definitely do pinks as well. And then don't forget, we've got flies in the store right now. We've got his famous pink Pam. We've got a bunch of his river patterns as well. If you guys are looking for pink patterns that are specific for the river or specific for the beach, you do have to be picky in that regard. The big bushy ones don't work well on the beach, and the skinny ones don't work as well on the river. But check that out. Definitely worth looking. I'll leave links up here and also tag it in at the back end of the report. Now the other one, which is kind of fun, let me see if I can grab it here for you guys, is Brendan Morrison, Real West Coast. He did this episode, I think they did it last year, but it's on a fishery that's exactly timed right now. Again, the limitations of where we can catch and keep fish, that size limitation is still in effect. But there's some cool areas and they're fishing really well right now. Get out. If you want to book a charter, give us a call. Number right here. If you can get across the strait, it's not like a 5-hour. You'll want to go for the long haul. Get out there if the weather permits, but it's definitely worth looking at. And this one's kind of cool. I won't say it's a secret spot, but it's a very specific spot across the strait where you need to go very, very deep. And there's some tidbits of fishing information hidden within some epic fishing because they just nailed it on this trip. So it's always fun to watch Brendan and Jay go at it. They've had some amazing trips. I'm going to leave links to that up here. I'll also put it in the back end of the report if you want to continue watching and watch some great fish porn with some tidbits of great information hidden within them. All right, what else have I got for you guys? Well, let's talk some carp fishing. This one's cool. I've got some details in the written that go into a little bit more detail on how you can do this. And this is something I've been doing for years. I've been blessed to spend a lot of my summers up in the Okanagan region. And in the summer's not a great month for lake fishing when it comes to trout at least, but if you want to go outside of the box, targeting carp or even pike minnow, for example, you can have some pretty fun fishing as well as some great fishing for the family. And so what you want to do if you're heading up to the lake, you've been up there, you've been like, I've seen those fish in the shallows around my cabin or my friend's cabin or wherever we're staying. The first thing you want to do, let's say you got some kids, you want to sit out on the dock and have a rod in the water, is just do a simple corn rig. It's a bottom rig with corn. I'm going to share a picture of that with you here. Very simple, very easy. Pick up a can of corn from your Safeway, put 3 kernels, 3 is my sweet spot, balance them well on the hook so you hide the hook, flip it out, get tight on it. Extremely effective. You're going to catch carp, you're going to catch pike minnows. This is me with my daughter's spinning rod, aka the Barbie doll special, and it actually slayed this weekend. She hooked a bunch. This one scared her away because it was a little bit smelly. But we also hooked a bunch of carp on this rig, so you can absolutely do that. It's easy and it's fun. Flip it around, you want to go a little bit more hardcore. Look at making your own bait. Do the boilie style bait where you're literally going to mix and cook a boiled ball of bait, rigging on a hair rig so it floats just a little bit above a very, very small hook. This is the way, if you really want to get into carp, you're going to be effective. There's a bunch of videos on this, but look it up. It worked great in the Okanagan. We did a ton of it in the last handful of years. Literally got the ladder out so we could spot fish. It was super fun. Flip it around though, you're a fly guy, or hey, you want a real challenge. Pick up a fly rod and try to target these fish on the fly. We've been using balanced style sort of damselfly / mayfly nymph patterns because that's what's going to be in those areas, and the tactic is quite simple. You're going to have to sneak up on them. You miss the cast, they're gone. You might have to wait an hour till they come back, or you might have to hike a while to find them. But my best advice is to look at how the fish is moving. If it's suspended and chilling out, you're probably not going to catch them. They're not biting. Flip it around and they're down on the ground. They're mucking around a little bit. They're moving sort of like this. You've got hope. The one you're really looking for is an aggressive feeder that's tailing and sort of pushing around on the bottom, really rooting it up. I sit there until I see them make a move to eat something. That's when I make my cast, because I don't want them to see my fly land. I try to throw it as close as physically possible when they're making that move. I don't lead them too far. I don't drag the fly in. I let it sit. I pull slack. I hold on that fly. When they look up from whatever they're feeding on, I give it a little bit of a twitch. Pop, 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 pop. Just try to get their attention. Once you've got their attention, you're going to tell. Then you're just going to keep constant, solid tension on them, slowly moving it, trying to feel for that bite. And if you can see their mouth open and closed, sort of add a little bit of an aggressive strip into the mix. And yeah, you're not going to hook many of them. You might have to shoot at 40 or 50 or even 60 of them to get a hookup, but it's pretty darn rewarding. They pull like stink. And this is coming from a guy who loves permit fishing, probably the most challenging style of fly fishing in the world, and also loves trigger fishing, which is challenge unto itself. I rank carp up with those three species, maybe not on the same level, but in the game, and something that we have locally, which is really cool. All right, that's everything I've got for you guys. I'm going to throw Brendan's up here. I'm going to throw Andre's video down here. I might even throw another video here. I think we've got a good nymphing one that I wanted to share with you, because it's time to look at that when our local trout streams are going in good temperature levels. And as always, you want to see more reports like this, consider hitting the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll catch you next week.